What I want to do tonight is a little bit different, because I've been talking about you having to bring your intellectual energy to Torah. Okay, Torah is not passive. It demands your active involvement in uncovering its secrets. And the truth is that you really find that just as a matter of drush on this week's parsha, Bechukotai, is that if you look at Torah's Kahanim, the Sifra, on Im Bechukotai Telechu, okay, if you know what is Im Bechukotai Telechu? If you follow my chukim, right? So the Torah's Kahanim says, does that mean following mitzvah? No, because it says right afterwards, Im mitzvot tishmoru. So what's Im Bechukotai Telechu? So he says that you have to be a melim b'Torah. You have to be really involved in Torah. Really, a melim is really working hard in Torah. So the fact is, the Torah Tzminim says that he says it's interesting because he uses the word chok. Right now, chokim, if you think about chokim and so forth, it usually means mitzvot we don't understand. Okay? The Rambam basically says it's mitzvah sichliot, which are the mitzvot we understand, which are like the rational laws, the laws that are in line with our natural morality, such as don't murder or something like that, and so forth. And then there's the chukim, right? Like shatnez, which no one really understands, but we're not, Torah says I'm not supposed to do that. But the Torah Tamima basically says chukim. He uses from the word chok, the mitzvah you really have to work hard to understand. It really tells us something about what chukim is about. The fact is the very fact that the Kodesh Baruch Hu gave us mitzvahs that we don't understand does not mean that we just basically are supposed to act like sheep and just do them like that. It means we're supposed to struggle with them, attempt to understand them. That's what the Rambam did in the Morah. That's what all the Tamei HaMitzvot is, that it's a matter of struggling with it. And many times it's a struggle that is sometimes a challenge, such as in situations of a guna or something like that, where sometimes you're wondering, why is it us or well? But the truth is, what the Torah Tamim is saying, that really uses the same word chok, that this tells us that there is mitzvahs we're supposed to work hard at, to try and understand. So I've been talking about this for the last couple things. The fact is the greatest challenge in terms of Torah is working hard to try and understand them. But the truth is that in order to do that, you have to have something that drives you to work hard, something that bothers you, something that motivates you, right? And usually that starts with a question that comes from whatever question the person is bothered with. In other words, sometimes it has to come from the self. Okay, and then what has to be done is you have to take that question and then run with it and build upon it. And that was something else I was trying to point out from other cases, that a lot of times it's not enough that you just have a person ask a question. What really has to happen is you have to feed that question. You have to water that question. You have to make the question into a motivation, into something that makes someone really want to investigate. So a lot of times the topics that I've taken, that I've done a lot of learning with, are generally topics that originate with someone that's bothered by something. Now the truth is I think back to the first gay individual I met, gay Orthodox individual. It was in the early 1980s. An individual who was from, an individual who was a Baal Tshuva, in the process of becoming from, was from to some extent, and then because he was gay, he had real difficulties with it. And
you found out he was gay after?
He told me what happened was, it was an interesting thing. What happened was some guy came up to me, because I was sort of known to deal with issues that other people didn't deal with. So it's like I'm willing to take on questions. So this guy asked me if I would speak to this individual. What happened was he was a Baal Tshuva, he became from, and then he was already on his path out of being from. And some guy said, would I speak to him? So I said, sure. And I spoke to him, and he was basically telling me his troubles. He was saying, listen, he just didn't want to be alone. And that was a major shift at that point in time. The fact is it's not an issue of just sexuality, it's an issue of loneliness. Okay, the person felt that he could only have that type of relationship with another man. But so I said I would speak to him. And I spoke to him for a couple hours. To him, he was really moving out. He was really not interested anymore. I mean, he was already saying, it turns out later he actually had a relationship going already. And the person who arranged for me to speak to him, I said, why did you have him come speak to me then? If you knew, why did you have to speak to me 6 months earlier, whatever. Okay. But the point is that when he brought up the issues, what he found was I was really struggling with him with those issues. I understand there were real issues. I understood the struggle with them. And therefore what happened is I started doing investigations of those issues in learning. And I took the issues and investigated in learning and so forth and developed certain papers on Jewish attitudes towards homosexuality and so forth within halacha. But the fact is trying to deal with certain struggles, certain halachic struggles. Like I'll give you one example. The Gemara states that if a person is born under the sign of Mars, a person is born under the sign of Mars, right, using astrological ideas, okay, what should that person do? So the Gemara says, what does that mean? It usually means the person wishes to draw blood. The Gemara is saying this is a person who normally would become a murderer. It means he has a violent tendency. So a person who's aggressive.
Yeah.
So what should a person who's aggressive do? And the way the Gemara defines it is he has an interest in drawing blood. So the fact is, the Gemara says what he should do is he should take his personality and he should direct it either to something that's Beinani or a mitzvah. So what's a Beinani activity for someone who has a drive to draw blood?
Military?
Interesting.
War fighting?
But in daily practice.
Butcher. Surgeon?
Those are possible. That might even be a mitzvah. The fact is what he says is a person like that should become a shoichet.
Shoichet, yeah.
Shoichet, okay?
That's a mitzvah.
And then he says, and if a person wants to do it as a mitzvah, he should become a moil. Now the fact is,
what's the difference?
As a shoichet, it's really a reshus. If you want meat, you should chef this way. And really, there's a mitzvah. It's interesting because there's a bracha, right? But it's not the same thing. But mila, you're actually mamish doing a ma'aseh mitzvah because a person's supposed to do mila.
Yeah.
So the point is, the Vilna Gaon explains it. He says that every drive that you have, there's no idea in Judaism of good drives and bad drives. Okay, that's the little devil and the little angel on the shoulders that you see in cartoons, or when I was watching cartoons, or maybe they're not the modern cartoons. But the fact is that that's really the good drive. That's really not a true Jewish understanding. The understanding is you have a drive, and every drive that you have can be used. The Vilna Gaon says can be used one of three ways: l'ra, l'tov, or beinani. And he says that's the way he understands the Gemara. He says a person has this drive to draw blood, becomes a murderer, that's a rasha. Person has a drive to draw blood, beinani, that's a shoichet. Person has a drive to draw blood and wants to do a mitzvah, becomes a moil. So I threw out the question in terms of homosexuality. I questioned, well, so what is the possible drive for homosexuality, and what's the possible way to make that drive into or to fulfill that drive in a positive fashion. Now, most people say it's not a separate drive. Most people say it's not a drive. It's part of the sexual drive. It's a deviant drive. Now, the truth is that's a very powerful statement. Because I just showed you from the Gemara that every drive we have is one. So most people say no, this is not a real drive, okay? And that's why most people say that the real drive is the heterosexual drive, and this is just the deviant drive. But the truth is, it's my understanding that explains Ramosha's very powerful words in terms of homosexuality, because Ramosha has very, very strong words in terms of homosexuality. Because Ramosha basically says it's always lahachas. He says it's always to defy God. Why? Because Moshe can't see any purpose for this drive. If it was a real drive, then every real drive has to have a mitzvah application, a Beinoni application, and a Ra application. But the fact is that he can't see any. He sees it's only being Ra. So he says that can't be a real drive. So he says that drive is really a hachas. It's very powerful stations for Moshe. If you know the way Moshe usually thinks, it's very what do you call it? Very eye-opening that he makes this powerful statement. But as my understanding, he's making this statement because of the concept. What could this drive be for?
Right.
And I don't have an answer for that. I don't have an answer for it. But the fact is that I asked that questions already in the early 90s. Wrote articles about that in terms of dealing with the issue. The point is that once you start dealing with an issue and you have struggles and you see it opens up new ideas in Torah. New ideas in Torah. So I've been talking like this for a little while, and what I thought we'd do is I thought maybe we should see how this comes about. So the truth is should I mention a name or just an individual this year? Asked the question last week. Okay? So and it seems like a straightforward question, but what you want to do is find out what really is motivating that question. That's what you really want to do. So do you remember your question last week? The question was, what is Olam Haba? Right? That was your question last week, right? So the point is what I would start with, you asked the question, what is Olam Haba? So I told you that really we can't describe Olam Haba, because Olam Haba is Kulu Ruchnius. It's totally spiritual, and everything we use as a frame of reference for our life has some physical dimension to it. Basically, we have everything we understand is physical. So the example I gave last week was in terms of eternity, God being above time. We can't even understand what that means, because one of our parameters in the intent of existence is with time. So we can't understand what above time means. Okay? So it's a concept we can't understand. So the Rambam points it out also, we can't really understand Kulu Ruchnius, total spirituality. Okay, and that's one of the reasons we can't understand the Kodesh Baruch Hu, because our frame of references are all physical. Okay, so the point is what you say, whatever Olam Haba is, we're told it's a good place. Whatever it is, it's a good place, and so. But it's interesting because you look in terms of Islam, they try and present their future world as physical pleasures.
Which is interesting.
Right, which is now some people say that's not. I've heard people say that's not real Islam believes that, but the fact is if you look, they talk in those terms because that's what you have to say to the Hamonam. But that's where you hear about virgins and about plentitude and about everything. It's because the only way is to define pleasure. Kulu pleasure is physical terms. But the point is that. By the way, this is just the aside. That it's really more than that. I mean, you hear these things about virgins, but the fact is, you should understand what I read. What Islam really believes is almost like that there are what do you call it, clones created of human beings. In other words,
so you get like the movie stars.
It's like female. They're not really human, but female entities that are there. But it's not real human beings, or whatever. But anyways,
that sounds better than our version, so it makes sense why they would set themselves up for it.
Right. But the fact is okay. So the point is that's because this. Hey, I want that. But our version is it's something we don't understand.
Right.
The Gemara says there's no eating, there's no drink, and that's supposed to be better than anything we can have in this world. We don't understand it.
But we're physical entities. That's the whole point.
Pardon?
We're physical entities, but we as Jews, we have our physical entities, but we also try to.
Well, that leads into a question of whether of the nature of the physical entity plus what. But the truth of the matter is we really can't explain it. We just say it's a good place. But what's interesting, what really is interesting, is why you ask that question. So that's what's really interesting, because what you want to do in this type of learning is to find out what is the reason you're asking that question. You see, a lot of times, if you see in terms of learning, okay, the point is that, okay, you see a stira, so it's an obvious stira, so a person catches the question or whatever. But what really motivates a person, the person wants to find the stira. And that's when the person asks that type of question. But what really is interesting is the motivation for any type of question. Okay? In other words, why do you ask any type of question? Because well, the fact is that not everyone asks the same question. It's very personal. There's a personal.
Each one has their own.
There's a personal thing, and the fact is that doesn't mean every aspect of learning is personal. Is personal to the exclusion of everyone else, but it does mean that if you're going to have the motivation to learn, you have to know yourself. You have to understand what motivates you. You have to understand what really pushes you, what it is that's bothering you, and to plug into it. So it hit me last week when you asked the question about what is Olam Haba. The answer I gave is what is Olam Haba, and that's the best answer we can give given our world. But the real question is why you ask that question. The real question is to understand your beginning point. What's bothering you about asking that question? Any ideas?
Sure.
Okay, good.
Think about it for a second.
Okay. The fact is, it's a matter of self-introspection. The truth is, a lot of people don't recognize that, but a lot of aspects of learning, it says in Mishlei, Chanach l'nar al pi darko. You're supposed to educate the child pursuant to his way. Okay?
No one does that.
Okay? What? The fact of the matter is you have to understand what that motivation is. You have to understand what is pushing the person. And that starts with the type of questions they ask. Not everyone asks the same questions. And from the difference in terms of the questions, you begin to understand what's pushing them to what they really want to understand. And a lot of times it's stymied. A lot of times people are afraid of getting the person really riled up. Because you get it riled up, you basically, what's the word I'm looking for? If you're getting people riled up, you don't know where it's going to end up. See, if you have a very autocratic system who wants everyone to come out the exact same way, you don't want to bring out their individuality. You don't want to get them. You really don't want to get them motivated. You really don't want to get them turned on, because then they start asking questions you may not have answers for, and then they're going to go, develop their own ideas. And to develop their own ideas, you can't basically control them. Exactly. So the point is that what you want to do, but I think you want to do, is you want to bring out from the person what's bothering you. What's your question? When you ask that question, what really is the reason you ask that question? Sometimes it's a problem, sometimes that, but there's obviously a reason, and from understanding your motivation, we can open up new vistas. So, you got a minute, or you want to?
Yeah, so I think everyone's trying to do two type of people, and they're trying to achieve the perfect life. And so from a Jewish perspective, I think the perfect life is to do everything you can to have the best Olam Haba. Out of a Jewish perspective, I think everyone just wants a perfect life, not for Olam Haba, but like even within as Jewish people still. So what's more worth it for a person like?
So what you're saying is that there's a motivation to do this for a better life here.
People want a better life.
Right.
Here, but what's defined as a better life? Like most people just want to have a good life.
Right. So
they just want to be comfortable and happy.
Right, but there's a difference between what the good life is here and what the good life is in Olam Haba.
And as a Jew, aren't we always supposed to be striving towards having a better Olam Haba?
but let's.
And that means giving up, like you want to.
Do you see what you just said? Does that mean giving up this world?
Yeah, that's the divide between these
in other words, what you're saying is that if you have a good Olam Haba, you're not going to have a good this world.
Well, how as a Jew do we only go through one perspective? How are we not only going through that one perspective? Well,
the extreme, of course, you recognize that the extreme religion that believes in only Olam Haba and nothing here. I shouldn't say the only one, but the fact is that's fundamental to Christian thought, especially Catholic thought, in the sense that the whole idea is that this world is totally worthless, and the only thing that matters is the next world. Okay, therefore, if you go up to a Catholic and say, if you're celibate, you won't have children, so what? So, what's the point of this world, anyways? Okay, so the point is, and it's not just in terms of Catholics. I mean, I'm reading actually the book 12 Years a Slave, which was a big. Did that win the Academy Award? Yeah. Okay, so it was a big movie, but I'm reading the book, and it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. The fact is that so many of the slave owners taught their slaves Christianity. They used to have Sundays where they sit there and do the gospel and so forth and so forth. And a lot of the lesson was, yeah, your life here is terrible, but God will take care of you in the next world. That's very much part of Christian thought. The point is really at odds with each other. So when you start out talking about Olam Haba, it starts becoming, are you working for this world or are you working for the next world? And if you're working for the next world, you accept the fact you don't have this world. Okay, and that really was a powerful motivation to keep the masses down. Okay, the point of the matter is, you had feudal systems and stuff like that. You basically said, listen, this is the way it is, and if you are a good, serf or a slave or whatever, then you'll get in the future world. It's the way to do it. So that really is one perception of the future world, in the sense that it's at odds with this world. Okay? Now, the truth is in Torah, it raises an interesting issue, in the sense of, do we look at the Olam Haba in the same way? In the sense that Olam Haba is at the expense of a Tov in this world. Now, the truth is, the Gemara talks about the fact that there are people who are kind of Olam Haba and kind of Olam Hazeh. There are people who could have a good life in both worlds. Okay, so the fact is they're not necessarily at odds with each other. But it's an interesting question you're raising, because Olam Haba is often perceived to be the answer to misfortune in this world, and that's one use of Olam Haba. I mean, the fact is it's a use that has to be applied with tremendous caution. Like when you have the question about Tzadik v'Tovlo, or Rasha v'Rava, Tzadik v'Rava, or Rasha v'Tovlo. So one of the answers is that the person is good in this world, so he can get really bad in the next world. Or Rasha deserves some rewards, so he gets it here, so he can get totally taken care of in the next world, according to his Ra. And then there's the idea of Tzadik v'Rava, he gets punished in this world, so he can have Kulus Chus in the next world. Okay. That's an answer that's given. Okay, and it's a legitimate answer on a certain level. The point is with that type of answer, it creates a dichotomy between this world and the next world. Okay, and it creates Olam Haba to be the great equalizer, or what I call the great equalizer, or creates an attitude to Olam Haba that sort of says, it's what makes pain in this world justifiable. It really defines it with a very specific definition. And the fact is do you want Olam Haba within that definition? Because do you want this world defined in that definition? The truth is that when Moshe Rabbeinu asked the question, okay, that was his big question. He said, "Hareini na'ai fodecha, hareini na drachecha." Show me your way, show me your essence. The Gemara says his question was Tzadik v'Rava and Rasha v'Tovlo, and he didn't have an answer, because the fact is even though Olam Haba provides somewhat of an answer, that we're not just justified by this world. There's an issue in this world. Why is it that if you're doing good, you don't have benefit in this world? Why is Olam Haba the answer, the great equalizer? Right? How is that just? So the fact is that this creates certain issues for us, in the sense that in certain ways, from a Torah perspective, we weren't willing to totally say everything is Olam Haba. Okay? The fact is that in a certain way, we wanted something to be happening in this world. Okay, and the fact is that comes about the fact that we you know you see this that we want some things. You see in terms of Birkas HaChodesh, Parak HaChodesh, we want to rule here. We want some benefits here. Because the fact is
what the idea of oneg?
The fact is that you want all good things, but one of the reasons for that is because it really has a lot to do with purpose. See, within Christianity, you really have no purpose. It was, what are you supposed to do? So in Christianity, you really, basically
just believe in Christ.
That's it. But really, and you do. Yeah, I mean, you're charitable. I mean, you do have. Christians who are quite charitable. You had Mother Teresa or whatever. But the interesting thing is self-development. There's no point. Building up this world has
They don't have to work on self.
Well, Catholicism more, especially in fundamentalism.
Really.
I'm not a real expert in everything, but there's no. But it's much more based on grace. The fact of the matter is, the idea of grace is that I remember once, I forget where this was. I worked for a year in Denver, so it might have been in Denver where I heard this TV show. Because if you know the Midwest, they're heavily into Christianity and fundamentalism and so forth. But I remember I was trying to find a radio station in the car, and I came across a Christian radio station, and he said something that always stuck with me. It gave me tremendous insight. He said that why were the Christians so much? Why was Christianity so much against the law? What was their problem with the Pharisees, with Prushim, with Chazal, with Jews? Because Jews said you have to work on yourself, right? The secret to being saved, using their language, was the law, right? You have to do the law to save yourself. So therefore, so that sounds like, hey, listen, you should work hard to try and get somewhere. Why was that such a problem for the Christians? He says the problem with the Jews was their ego. They thought that they could save themselves. They thought they could save themselves through hard work, through the law. But they didn't recognize is they had no chance to save themselves. They can only be saved by the grace. By the grace of Yeshua, which means, and the guy basically says, once you recognize that you are totally worthless, that you have no chance to save yourself, you have no chance to work hard and to try and do anything, and therefore you turn, and then at that point in time basically say, listen, I'm totally devoid of any possibilities, please save me. That's what Christianity is about. But in a certain way, the idea of Torah says, listen, still say Lahavdil, Sheina, Kodesh Baruch Hu, Ana Hashem, Sheina. We still recognize that Kodesh Baruch Hu needs our help. If you look in terms of a lot of stuff on Tshuva, you begin at Kodesh Baruch Hu has to help you and so forth and so forth. It's not just simply, I can do it. The point is that there has to be a little development of yourself. There's a whole thing in terms of Rabbi Yosheber actually has a whole. Rabbi Yosheber Soloveitchik has a whole essay called Shchora Nivinaveh. I am black and I am beautiful. It's a phrase from Shir Shirim, and he basically says that that in order to do tshuva, you have to believe in yourself to have the ability to do tshuva. He says there's an aspect of tshuva that even though we don't say al chet and we recognize our weaknesses and so forth and so forth, there's an aspect of tshuva that says we have to have some belief in ourselves so that we can do tshuva. Okay, so the point is, with the Christian called ego, we argue that we have to have a little, we have to have a little bit of ego. We have to believe the Kodesh Baruch Hu created us with the ability to do something and to believe that we can exercise that ability. So the point is that therefore this world has value. So we're talking about go forth, multiply, build up this world. We are supposed to say, yes, we can do something. And therefore, we have to see some objective in this world. So the question is with that idea, then we have this issue, okay, so how do we balance Olam Haba with Olam Hazeh? And how do we understand that? And the truth is, they're not necessarily at odds with each other. And there has to be a point in time where it's not, if I'm going to become Olam Haba, I have to give up Olam Hazeh. There are times that you need something in Olam Hazeh. And you really see this in terms of, let's say, the family life. Okay, in Catholicism, there's the idea of celibacy. You know, that I deny myself, and that will get me the future world. In Judaism, there's an idea of I fulfill myself, and that will give me Judaism. So the point is that in a certain way, there's certain tzaddikim who have aspects of Olam Hazeh and aspects of Olam Haba, and they're together. So the point is from your question about what is Olam Haba, the fact is what you're seeing in that question is much more of what is this? Where is the place of Olam Haba in my understanding of Torah? How do I understand it? How do I balance the world between what I struggle with and this world and moving ahead in this world? These are all issues we have to deal with, and this becomes a question that emerges from the original questions. The point is I'm just trying to point out that it seems like an innocent question. What is Olam Haba? But the fact that that was your question tells me something about you, and you opened it up a little bit. What exactly is it that you want to understand about Olam Haba in this world? What's its place in Judaism? Does it really mean I'm only supposed to think of future world and not think of this world? And if I think about this world, how do I balance it with thinking about the future world? And this is very much part of the issue. Okay? And that comes from you. Okay? It comes from you asking and you being motivated to ask and opening up new questions.
So if we're living in this world, I agree that you should be thinking about this world and focusing on this world.
Right.
And
the fact is, but Olam Haba does play a role in it, because the fact is that in this world there's a concept of Olam Haba that has a place within this world, which basically means that this world is not everything. And that's where you begin to understand what Pirkei Avos says, that this world is a prustar, is a pathway to Olam Haba, because this world is not the ultimate ideal. Okay? The point is that this world has a place. See, the fact is, if you look,
some that have struggle with that,
right,
expression, or like coming to terms with how we come to terms with such a concept of that it is a pathway towards the spiritual, or like anything spiritual that, right, as you said, we are very physical.
But the fact is
that's
that
how we see and perceive everything.
But the fact is that means that our understanding of spiritual cannot be totally devoid of the physical. You know, I mean, the fact is that
well, seeming a lot of things is only dealing physically, but we have this fusion of spiritual connection towards it. But
that's part. See, part of the issue that a lot of people have difficulties with is you know, there's a classic Christian line: "Give unto God what is God, and unto Caesar what is Caesar." Or give unto Caesar and God what is God. I forget. The point is, a lot of people point to the fact that religion usually deals with the sort of like certain issues. It doesn't deal with other types of issues. So you expect from the Catholic Church, they'll say, feed the poor. You don't accept the Catholic Church to start dealing with
avoiding, kind of like really trying to find an answer.
Right, but in halacha, you really have to think in terms of society, and the balancing of society. But the fact is,
how is that not balancing society?
Well, Catholicism, it just talks about feeding the poor. So you can be nice and feed the poor, but you're not thinking about
like social structures.
Right, you're not thinking about social structures. You're not thinking about taxation issues and so forth and so forth.
Right.
And the point is from a halachic perspective, you are. Right. The understanding of what we think about. I mean, you look at the Babas, right? The Baba Kama, Baba Messiah, and Baba Basra, right? The fact is that if you look at them, it's all about contract law or property law and stuff like that. Now the truth is that discussing those issues, especially if you try and discuss those issues within a societal context, it becomes a challenge. It becomes an issue. You know, it's interesting. I'm going through
different time also period. that how do you relate to it in this time period?
Right, and that's part of the issue. But the fact is you know, in Eretz Yisrael there's people dealing with Mishpat Ivri, which is trying to take halacha and apply it to the real world. But like for example, I just wrote an article in our insights. Hope you got your first insight this week.
Yeah.
Good. I write a little an insight for our Torah every week, almost every week. But among other things I do. Okay. But the fact is I wrote one about how the kahuna worked in the real world, like back when there really was, you know, with the Kohanim, so with Truma and so forth and so forth. And I pointed out that the way Truma was distributed was under a principle that's called Tovas Hana, which is the farmer can decide which Kohen to give his Truma to, and he give all his Truma to one Kohen. Right? So you think about this. You think about this from an economic perspective. You have a kahuna, it's a group of people who are the only ones who are allowed to benefit from Truma, which is about 2% of the crop. Okay? So this produce of 2% of the crop had to be separated and only given to the selection of Kohanim, this segment of Kohanim. Now, the point is you might think, well, it just goes into general distribution and it's distributed equally to all the Kohanim, but it isn't. That 2% of the crop that's been distributed to Kohanim was at the whim of the owner of the crop.
Oh, wow.
Right? Now, what kind of economic effect would that have upon the Truma, upon the Kohanim? Okay? So there would be a much more symbiotic relationship between the farmers and the Kohanim. Okay? If you stayed up away from the farmer wouldn't know anything about you, and he doesn't know if he's going to give you any Truma. But if you have some type of relationship with him, then he might say, listen, I got Truma distributed, would you like some of that Truma? But the point is that I don't really know how it works, but the point is that it creates a dynamic. It's not just simply a simple distribution. And that is where you start dealing with halacha in a very different way. You start saying, okay, how does it really work in the real world? And then it leads to an understanding of the effect in this real world in a certain way that may have an effect that makes this world part of the objective. It's not just about the other world, not just about Olam Haba, not just about the result of the other world, but also it has something to do with what effects are in this world. See, it's very interesting because what happens sometimes from a lot of people who give charity and only think in terms of Olam Haba. I mean, the concept of halacha, I should start another way around. The concept of halacha of the best form of charity is giving someone a job, right?
That was anonymously.
No, above that is finding him work. Okay, but the fact is if you look in terms of if you look in terms of that idea, and the reason for that is because a person has a certain self-respect. He's not just getting a charity. He's actually working for it and so forth. The fact is that has a lot to do with building up a society. A lot of times when you deal with a lot of people dealing with poverty, okay, all they're interested in is helping something very just in the moment, but not really trying to take care of poverty. In a certain way, that's because there's an interesting thing that if you think the greatest good deed you can do is giving charity to the poor, then you want to keep around the poor so you can keep doing charity, right? Okay, it's an interesting aspect where I'll tell you something. I once heard there's a radio show called As It Happens. I used to listen to it, and this was years ago. Okay. Anyways, I listened to it many years ago. Barbara Frum was. Anyways, there was a kid in England who was dying of cancer, or wasn't dying. Well, he had cancer. The kid had, I forget if it was a boy or girl, but had cancer. And this kid wanted to receive the most get well cards okay, to get a new Guinness Book of Records to be the person who received the most get well cards. Okay? So the Archdiocese of Newfoundland arranged on a certain day for everyone in the schools in the Archdiocese, at Catholic schools, I'm sure, a good number of Catholic schools in Newfoundland, for everyone to sit down and write a get well card to this person to help them with their with his goal of with the goal of receiving the most get well cards. Okay, so they had the guy in the Archdiocese who put this together, arranged it in all the schools and so forth and so forth. So they had him set up. That day or the day before, a message came out from England. Please, no more cards. We already have 2 warehouses filled with cards. They broke it. They totally shattered the previous record. And now we have warehouses. We have nowhere else to put the cards. Please don't send any more cards. We already have the Guinness Book. We already are in the Guinness Book of Records. Okay. So the next. So when this happens, they have the guy speaking. He's so proud. He says, "Yes, we worked it out. All the students are doing this tomorrow morning. Blah 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 blah." And he's so, yes, it's going to be an act of kindness. We're going to show caring and so forth and so forth. Then the host and that says, "Okay, but you do know that there's been a change in policy from England. They came out with an announcement: no more cards." And the guy goes, "What?" It's like, what do you mean no more cards? Well, no, they already broke the record. The guy didn't say, "Oh, they broke the record? We don't have to do this anymore?" "Oh, I'm sorry." The guy was so upset. He says, "Well, what are you gonna do?" So he says, the guy, he hasn't happened. Guy felt so bad. He says, "Listen, I'm sure there's some other need in the world. Oh yeah, there's always some tragedy in the world. I'm sure we'll find some other cause." The point is that if your perception of charity is simply giving to the poor, but you always need poor people around in order to give to them, right? Then you're not going to really take care of the problem. You're going to take care of it on a certain extent, but you're not really going to solve the problem. But if you have a different idea, and I got onto this idea from what you said before about having something you want to do with your life. If you have something you want to do with your life, like for example, you know, in terms of Jewish law, you want to learn. You want to study. You want to understand Kodesh Baruch Hu's Torah. You want to work at something. You want to build something, and so forth and so forth. Then the idea is, and you see this in the halacha. The halacha says that if you're sitting and learning, and someone else can take care of the poor person, that other person should take care of them. Because what is it really saying? It's really saying, listen, if there are no poor people around, you should be happy. You should be happy. There's no poor people around. I don't have to be mevatel for my learning to go take care of the poor. Right? That's great. The need is being taken care of. I don't need me to have it being taken care of.
So it's about fulfilling the need, not about the action. It's not the action itself.
Right. Okay. Anyways, okay. I hope that's not a sign on the.
No, I have a client I have to actually.
Okay. Anyways.
Try to delay the client as much as I could.
Okay. Anyways, well, you can get the rest on KosherTube.
Oh, the stuff's up?
Yeah, it's up on KosherTube.
Right.
It's called the Young Adults Chabura in the Nishma section of KosherTube.
Cool.
Okay, actually it's under my name, Benjamin Hecht. But if you look in KosherTube, you look under Rabbinic Voices, see Benjamin Hecht and it's the Chabura, the Young Adults Chabura. But that really changes it. It's the fact that you want to. You want the need taken care of, but you don't need that need to be around for you to feel you're doing the act. You want the need to be taken care of because you have other things you can do, and that's other things that do with building up the world or taking steps. Okay, the truth is that, and that should have something. You know, when you talk about in terms of learning Torah, you're supposed to enjoy learning Torah. And I think that one of the aspects of learning Torah is. In terms of enjoying it, is bringing your personality into it.
There's no test, you just do it.
But also because it's dealing with issues that you want to deal with. Anyways, you know, there's a pasuk in. I'm trying to remember where this pasuk is. Micha, I think. What does God want for you? And it's interesting because the language is that Osen Mishpat. Avos chesed va'oseh mishpat v'asnei lechadim elokecha. But the thing that always hits me is it says Avos chesed va'oseh mishpat. You're supposed to love chesed. You're supposed to want to see things taken care of, right? But it doesn't necessarily. But it's oseh mishpat. You want to do justice, because the truth is, what you really want is that the chesed is already taken care of. You want to be happy. You want to be an avos chesed. You want to see that everyone's taken care of. Okay? If I have to do a chesed, I will. But you want it to be taken care of. Okay? Because then you can go on and do other things. So say lechadim elokecha. You want to strive for other things, for moving forward and so forth. So the truth is that if you're thinking about this world, then you're thinking about what is necessary to make this world a better world, including in terms of your life being better. Then in many ways, that's part of the objective in this world, to tell us about Olam Haba. And there was one of the differences I'm getting at is that if we are supposed to struggle in this world to understand the world, to deal with the world, then what's beneficial to us in this world has to have some value to us as a guide of what the world is about. Okay? So the point is that if we are moving through this world under the direction of Torah and we see some benefits to ourselves in terms of our life and so forth, then this guides us in terms of understanding how this world is to push us forward. And then Olam Haba, also is supposed to be part of the equation. But if you think that this world has no benefit whatsoever, okay, then basically the world is also not a yardstick for you determining what to do. Okay? Anyways, but my real point was to raise the issue of questioning. Okay? That the question has to come from yourself. You have to be interested in the questions. And you have to be motivated in your questions. So any type of question you ask, to say, okay, what's really bothering me? What's significant in that question?
Well, I had the questions throughout, but I didn't want to interrupt.
No, you can interrupt. Please interrupt.
I don't even remember.
No, please. The fact is that please interrupt.
John,
what?
What is this?
No names, right? What? Is it red?
No, but should we turn off the people out?
No, I don't think anyone recognizes it, but I'm not shy from questions. Good questions.
Any question?
Why did you decide to have Olam Haba to begin with?
What?
God, why would you decide to have Olam Haba to begin with? Why?
The other question is the other round. Why have this world? Olam Haba is simple to understand.
You could have just made this world both together.
The fact is I believe the Zohar asked this question, but it's a classic question within Jewish thought. The perception of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is that He's a Tov V'Meitiv. He's good and the giver of good. So He created us in order to give us good. In other words, He created us for our benefit. So the question is asked, why not just put us in Olam Haba? Why do we have to this world struggle? Why, if He just wanted to give something good, why not just give something good? Okay? And so that's a classic question from Jewish thought. And the answer that's given is the fact that to truly get the good, you have to have earned it. Okay? Getting something for nothing is not the ultimate good.
But why couldn't we just get Olam Haba after we earn it right now?
Because the question is whether to go about earning it.
Die.
Yeah, okay. So the point is that there's an aspect, it raises an issue. See, I think another issue is not just Olam Haba, is why don't we have any clear proof of God? Why don't we have any clear proof of I mean, you're asking an interesting question. Why?
It seems like we need the concept of Olam Haba in order.
Yeah, because the issue is, see, I'm sort of switching the other way around. In other words, if you're given this world first, then you sort of need the Olam Haba to sort of give answers. What I'm doing is I'm switching it around. If I'm sitting there and say God could have created a Olam Haba without this world, why do we need this world? But what you're raising, I think, is somewhat of the question of doubt or not knowing things. See, the fact is why is it so necessary that the knowledge of Olam Haba is not known? In other words, why is no one walking around saying, I've been to Olam Haba, there is an Olam Haba, and they shouldn't have any doubt with it? The problem we have a lot with Olam Haba...
I know why that is, because nobody's come back, so...
So why hasn't anyone come back?
Because once you're dead, you're dead.
Well, the point is that if you believe in the Jewish perception, it shouldn't be a big difficulty to bring someone back from the dead.
Did you bring
right?
It's never been done.
Well, it goes back to your point about Hatov HaMeitiv. Hatov is he is good. HaMeitiv, it implies he is improving. He is making something good.
Meitiv is he's giving good.
He's giving good. He is providing good.
Right.
But Meitiv is also like it's a he feel, right?
Right.
So
I think so. I'm not expert in grammar, but okay.
I don't know. I can't remember if it's a he feel or a peel, but he is also making something, improving something good, making something good. So in order for us to, because we are imperfect beings, and you're right. If we were introduced to that level of spirituality, we wouldn't be able to cope. We wouldn't be able to understand it. We have to go through a learning process. Yeah, so we go through this experiment of this world.
The issue of us not being able to understand the ultimate spiritual truth is what Akash Baruch Hu said to Moshe, is that a human being can't understand. He says, that no one can see me. What it is a human being can't understand. There's limitations in a human being, but
why did he make limitations?
So it seems to be that it's an interesting question in the sense that there are limitations that are inherent to the definition. There's a whole question: can God create a circle that has four sides? And some people say yes, he can do anything he wants because he's God. But the fact is that my answer is very simple. You can't create a circle that has four sides because by definition it wouldn't be a circle. The point is that it's a classic question that exists from in terms of the response to the Christian argument of the physicality of Jesus. The point is they're saying, you sit there and say God can't become human. And they say, why? God can't do anything. He's omnipotent. He can do anything. No, he can't do something which is contradictory to his very essence. He's God. And there's a limitation in him because he's limited.
Aren't we technically contradictory? Like, our essence is we're part of God.
The fact is that that's another problem.
We are paradox.
When you say you're Chelik Elokeim Mamala, it can't mean you're actually part of God, because God is one. Can't be part of God. That's in a simple thing. That's where you get into issues of how you understand Simsum and stuff like that. But the fact is that saying that you're a part of God, Chelik Elokeim Mamala, a part of God above, can't be, because God is perfect unity. God doesn't have parts. Okay, so what does that mean when we say it? But it doesn't necessarily mean, it can't mean that you're actually part of it, because God, we say, is perfect unity. Echad is perfect unity. Right. So the point is there's a lot of issues in terms of language we use and so forth, because try to understand God and so forth. But the fact is, the neshamas can't be part of God, because then that means you get to issues at Simpson where we really are part of God. We're only with Simpson that we think we're separate from God, but we really are part of God. That's a whole bunch of other issues. Right, but the fact is what you're raising. The question is that why don't we really have knowledge of Olam Haba? Why don't we have an absolute understanding of what it is?
Or really knowledge to begin with.
Right, and then the coexistence of this world and Olam Haba. Why can't they coexist?
But he made knowledge of himself known before. It wasn't like he was never around.
The fact is that that's a real issue. Why did God make knowledge of his existence known to the world that creates Yam Suf, and we don't know for sure? And that raises issues of why is it that we don't have absolute knowledge. Now, a lot of people try to answer it because if you had absolute knowledge of God, you wouldn't have free choice. But that's a problematic definition of free choice. Free choice need
still
God.
doesn't answer the question of why he healed himself before.
Right.
So.
Right. The fact is that to really understand free choice, you have to understand Amalek. You have to understand Pharaoh. You have to understand the Egyptians who go into the sea. You ever think about this? There's this big thing of, you just went through 10 makot in Egypt, right? Okay. You're standing by the sea, and there's this big ball of fire preventing you from going back, and the Jews are going through the sea. And if you read the Midrashic understanding, they're going through the sea with apples growing from the side, and 12 different paths for each of the tribe have their own path, and it's paved, and so forth and so forth. You're seeing this happening. Okay? Take the most miraculous thing. And then the flame, this ball of fire is removed. I'm looking at this and saying, given the experience I just had in the last little while in Egypt, it says, like, you know, I don't think I'm going in there. You know, maybe I'm not going after them. No, the whole Egyptian army goes following them after them. Well, what's going on there? I mean, what's going on? Amalek knew what happened, and they go attack the Jewish people. What, are they crazy? The point is, you can't understand free choice if you don't understand free choice with the absolute knowledge of God. I mean, the fact is, if you look in terms of punishment, okay, in terms of a bezdin, right? Person can only get punished if he says Afal Pikein. If he's given Hasra and says HaKadosh Baruch Hu told you not to do this in the Torah, and you say, I don't care, I'm still going to do it. If you say, I don't believe God told me, you're about to eat the Big Mac, and some guy says, God said not to eat Big Macs. Says, I don't believe God told me not to eat Big Macs. You're potter from Makos. Right? You're totally free. Ignorance of the law. Or challenge the law. No, I don't believe it.
So how can you be chayav of anyone of anything?
The only way you can be chayav is if you say Afal Pikein. There's a few like but generally.
Afal Pikein sounds like a paradox in itself. If you believe there's a Hashem and you believe.
Right. So therefore, why would someone say, I believe in God? I mean, that's why Bilam, as I said, Bilam had no doubts about God. Right. I mean, what are you, an idiot? I mean, either he's an idiot. He had no doubt. I mean, you say Bilam was some people say Bilam had greater nevuah than Moshe Rabbeinu. God says, I don't think you should go, curse these people. I don't think you should. Oh, please God, I want to go. What are you, an idiot? I mean, come on. Right? So the point is that to understand free choice, you have to understand it from the perspective of why would someone who has absolutely no doubt in God, and no doubt about God's abilities, and no doubt about Schar V'Onish, and still say, I'm going to do this. Now that's an understanding of free choice that's mind-boggling. But the point is the way we understand it is that's why we have questions. That's why we can't prove anything, because that the ability to doubt is what allows us to have free choice. It's not it allows us to have choice, but the truth of the matter is it's a choice of why should the person be culpable for. Go back to the I gave a class last week, and there were some same-sex couples in it, right? And I spoke in passing about the Jewish aspect, but the halachic aspect of homosexuality and so forth. This is not to say I always speak about homosexuality, but the fact is that I had a point that I wanted to make, and you look at this at the same-sex couples, and why should they believe that it's usher? Why, they're looking and saying, but what? Because you say it's forbidden, it's forbidden. What? I can prove it to you. The point is, it's not so simple. The fact is oh no, because you. And by the way, you see this from Christians. They'll say because there's Jews for Jesus will come up to you and say, no, you really do believe. Like, you really do believe. No, I don't. No, but you have to say that I really do believe, because otherwise, why should I be held culpable? Point is that I don't know. So therefore, if you don't know for sure, why are you so?
How do we have Averas to begin with, then?
So the truth is that real Averas really only goes Baruch Hu to really know whether someone is really Averas or not.
So if I do something, it's.
Well, the point is don't think
something or don't do something.
Right, or basically you have to have you can't sit there and say, well, I want to eat this Big Mac, and there's an argument that says I don't really believe Kodesh Baruch Hu told me it, so I'm going to say God didn't tell me it, when really in my heart I believe God did tell me. Right. That doesn't work. The fact is that in certain ways you have to have a cheshbon yourself.
Right.
Right? And the point is that in many ways Judaism is a non-judgmental religion. we're very very adamant about what we have to strive to figure out what is right and wrong.
Right.
But then going over and being judgmental, the only time we really see, and you see this in halacha, in terms of judgment, it was really law and order that was our concern. Listen, even in Canada, some guy's crazy. It's a nebuch. What? Oh, okay. Some guy's a nebuch. Unfortunately, he's mentally ill. He's walking around with an Uzi. You gotta take him out. It's not being. What are you supposed to do? Law and order. I'm sorry. You know, it's like you have Rahmanas for him, but the fact is that I can't let him go around killing people, right? So the fact is, in halacha, there's very strict rules in terms of law and order, where we will use circumstantial evidence if it's necessary for law and order. We will do things that are necessary to maintain law and order in our society. But when it comes down to strict it, even on Machal Shabbos, the Rambam is very clear. A person's off in a technicality, doesn't say Afal Pikein, says I know the law, but I'm still going to do it. He's not held accountable. He's not held accountable.
So where do we go from there?
No, therefore, the idea is not to be overly judgmental.
So how do we?
You have to maintain what's necessary for society.
How do we have belief then?
No, the fact is that the struggle of understanding what we have to try and understand. The first call, I mean, the people actually ask this question in terms of what is the responsibility of a Tinnik Shenishba, a person who wasn't brought up from what's their responsibility. We ask this question by Noah Chayz as well. Why does a Noachai have to struggle to try and see what the truth is? The point is there seems to be an assumption that we're supposed to struggle trying to figure out what life is about. But in the end, that's only God can really judge a person. We have to do what's necessary for society, maintain law and order, okay, maintain certain standards and so forth, and
are we fortunate to be in a society that actually respects law and order?
Absolutely.
And the idea of the individual more so than ever has been
in many ways.
And therefore,
yes.
Is this idea that stems from? Does this idea stem from Judaism primarily? And
I mean, law and order is a value that comes out of Judaism. But
the idea of like social law and order or being caring about others, is that
comes from Judaism, development of a better society.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it gets into issues. Then we have to think in terms of, and this is an interesting issue in terms of the concept of freedom of religion, which we have benefited from in the value of freedom of religion, and trying to, how do I, as a Frum Jew, abide by freedom of religion?
Right.
It's an interesting time. I mean, these are all strong issues that affect us. But the point is, the more questions you have, the more you'll understand Torah,
right.
and the more motivated you'll be, and the more involved you'll be. Fact is that in certain cases you'll never find the answers.
Right.
But the point is you get a little movement further. Sometimes asking the right questions opens up your eyes to new possibilities. Right. It's not necessarily the answer that matters. It's the fact that you see some value in the struggle to try and understand things.
Right.
You know, and that's basically it. Okay, so what I wanted to do tonight was just to bring out yourselves a little bit, show you your questions, okay? And this is what I hope to do. I hope to raise issues that bring you into the questions.